February 17, 2003. The silence within the subterranean vault of the Antwerp Diamond Centre on the morning of Monday was not merely the absence of noise. It was the heavy, suffocating stillness of a catastrophe that had not yet been screamed aloud, located 2 stories beneath the street level of the world's most fortified commercial district. This chamber was engineered to be the most secure cubic space on the planet. A fortress of steel, concrete, and electronics designed to withstand explosions, thermal lances, and the ingenuity of the desperate. At approximately 7 a.m., the routine of the Diamond District, a square mile of commerce that processes 80% of the world's rough diamonds, began to stir. Security guards, adhering to a protocol etched in decades of paranoia and necessity, descended the stairwell to level -2. They expected the hum of the ventilation, the blinking green LEDs of the alarm panel, and the impenetrable solidity of the 3-ton steel door. What they found defied the physics of their reality. The massive door, a marvel of metallurgy capable of withstanding 12 hours of continuous drilling and secured by a lock with 100 million possible combinations, stood ajar. It had not been blown open. There were no scorch marks, no twisted metal indicating a thermal lance attack, no debris from a shaped charge. The door simply stood open, as if invited. Inside, the scene was a chaotic inversion of the vault's sterile purpose. The floor, usually a pristine expanse of white tile, was carpeted in a glittering detritus. Gold bars, emeralds, pearls, and diamonds, millions of dollars in loose stones, lay scattered like common gravel. Velvet satchels were ripped open, their contents disgorged in haste. 109 of the 189 safety deposit boxes had been forced open, their steel faces pried back with violent, focused mechanical torque. Yet amidst this wreckage of wealth, the silence persisted. No alarm was sounding. The police had not been summoned by the seismic sensors. The infrared detectors had not screamed when the intruders moved through the darkness. The magnetic fields had not snapped their invisible tripwires. The Doppler radar had registered nothing. The guards stood on the precipice of a crime scene that would soon be catalogued as the largest diamond heist in history. The value of the loot was estimated at over $100 million, though the true figure, obscured by the secretive nature of the diamond trade and the unlisted contents of private boxes, may have been significantly higher, potentially reaching $500 million in unverified assets. This was not a robbery. It was a magic trick performed with industrial tools. The perpetrators had bypassed 10 distinct layers of state-of-the-art security. They had walked into the most heavily surveyed square mile on Earth, descended into its heart, and walked out with the GDP of a small nation, leaving behind only trash, empty boxes, and a mystery that would consume investigators for decades. As the first calls went out to the Diamond Squad, the specialized police unit dedicated to the district, the question was not just who had done this, but how. How does one walk through a wall of electronic sensors? How does one open a lock with 100 million combinations without the code? The answer, as forensic teams would later piece together, involved a roll of double-sided tape, a canister of cheap hairspray, a styrofoam block, and a half-eaten salami sandwich. To understand the magnitude of the violation, one must first understand the context, the fortress, and the architect, beginning with the geopolitics of the Diamond District. To understand the magnitude of the violation, one must first understand the target. Antwerp, Belgium, is not merely a city with a diamond trade. It is the vascular system of the global diamond industry. The Diamond District, or Diamantkwartier, occupies a tight cluster of 3 streets: Schupstraat, Hovenierstraat, and Rijfstraat, near the central station. In 2003, this district was a sovereign state of security. Following a synagogue bombing in the early 1980s and a history of high-stakes theft, the area was fortified to near-military standards. Retractable steel pillars blocked vehicle access, creating a pedestrian-only zone monitored by a dedicated network of 63 surveillance cameras that recorded every angle of public space. The Antwerp police maintained a specialized diamond squad that patrolled the perimeter 24 hours a day, checking identification and maintaining a visible deterrent against organized crime. The Antwerp Diamond Centre, Located at the heart of this district was the inner sanctum. It was not a retail space, but a business-to-business fortress where raw stones were traded, sorted, and stored. The building itself was a modernist block, unprepossessing on the outside but engineered for total control on the inside. It housed hundreds of diamond merchants, many of whom operated on the handshake economy of the trade, where millions of dollars were exchanged on trust, requiring a central repository that was beyond reproach. Deep within lay the anatomy of the vault, located 2 floors below ground level. It was not merely a strong room, it was a Russian nesting doll of security measures, each layer designed to cover the vulnerabilities of the last. The security architecture relied on the principle of redundancy. If one system failed, another would trigger. Layer 1, the physical perimeter, meant that access required passing through steel turnstiles and manned guard posts on the ground floor. The elevator to the vault level required a specific magnetic access card, issued only to tenants and authorized personnel. Layer 2 was the vault door itself, a 3-ton behemoth made of steel and concrete. It was secured by a triad of locking mechanisms. First was a combination lock, a dial ranging from 0 to 99, capable of 100 million permutations. This required a 4-digit code that was known only to a select few security personnel. Second was a keyed lock, which required a specific foot-long key with intricate bitting, impossible to duplicate by standard means. The key was designed to be carried by the guards at all times. Finally, a seismic sensor embedded in the door itself was tuned to detect the specific vibration frequencies of drilling, thermal lancing, or sledgehammer impacts. Layer 3, the electronic net, ensured that even if the door were breached, the interior of the vault was a kill box of sensors designed to detect any environmental change. A magnetic field sensor, a 2-part device mounted on the door frame, consisted of a magnet on the door and a reed switch on the frame. If the magnetic field between the 2 plates was broken by opening the door, the alarm would trigger immediately. Since the vault was kept in total darkness, a light sensor using a photocell detector monitored the ambient light level. Any influx of light, from a flashlight or the opening door, would trip the system. Infrared heat detectors, or passive infrared PIR, scanned the room for thermal signatures. They operated by detecting the difference in infrared radiation between a human body and the background temperature of the room. Additionally, Doppler radar and motion detectors emitted microwaves to detect volume displacement. By measuring the frequency shift of the reflected waves, the Doppler effect, the sensor could detect movement even if the intruder was thermally shielded. This system was widely regarded as impenetrable. It was designed to defeat brute force, thermal attacks, and stealth. Yet every system designed by engineers operates on logic, and logic can be reverse engineered. The architect of this reverse engineering was Leonardo Notarbartolo. The man who would dismantle this logic was not a computer hacker or a rogue military operative. He was a charm merchant from Turin. Leonardo Notarbartolo was a career thief born in Palermo in 1952. By 2000, he had established himself as a distinct archetype in the criminal underworld, the gentleman thief. He was not prone to violence. His weapons were social engineering, patience, and a disarming smile. He understood that the weakest link in any security system was not the technology, but the people who operated it. 18 months before the heist, Notarbartolo rented a small office in the Antwerp Diamond Centre. He presented himself as a legitimate diamond merchant, an importer of gems based in Turin. He dressed in sharp Italian suits, drank espresso with other dealers, and spoke a smattering of languages. He paid his rent on time, attended meetings, and integrated himself into the fabric of the building. This tenancy was his Trojan horse. By renting an office, he received a key distinct advantage: an electronic access card to the building. This card allowed him to enter the building at all hours, and crucially, gave him a legitimate reason to be near the vault. He was given a safety deposit box inside the vault itself. For nearly 2 years, Notarbartolo was a ghost in the machine. He visited the vault frequently, ostensibly to deposit or retrieve stock. In reality, he was conducting one of the longest and most detailed reconnaissance missions in criminal history. He carried a specialized pen in his breast pocket. A piece of spycraft technology that in 2001 was cutting edge. The pen contained a miniaturized digital camera capable of storing 100 high-resolution images. Every time Notarbartolo visited the vault, he filmed. He filmed the door. He filmed the keypad. He filmed the ceiling layout. He filmed the specific angles of the motion detectors. He documented the brand names of the sensors, the shift patterns of the guards, and the location of the light switches. He was building a map. But he knew he couldn't walk the path alone. He needed a team of specialists who could translate his surveillance into action. The catalyst for the operation involved the assembly of the school. Regarding the Jewish dealer theory and insurance fraud claims, there are two competing narratives regarding the genesis of the heist. The official police narrative posits that Notarbartolo was the mastermind, the capo who conceived the plan and recruited his team independently. However, Notarbartolo himself offered a radically different narrative in a 2009 interview with Wired magazine, conducted from prison. He claimed he was merely a contractor. According to this account, he was approached by a mysterious Jewish diamond dealer, whom he referred to as Simon or a similar alias, who solicited him to rob the vault. In this version, Simon took Notarbartolo to an abandoned warehouse outside Antwerp. Inside, Notarbartolo was stunned to find an exact full-scale replica of the Diamond Centre vault. The floor tiles were identical. The sensors were the same make and model. The dealer had allegedly reconstructed the vault from Notarbartolo's surveillance photos to allow the team to practice. Notarbartolo claimed the heist was actually an insurance fraud scheme commissioned by the diamond dealers themselves, who wished to liquidate their stock via theft claim while retaining the stones. He asserted that when the team opened the boxes, many were already empty, and the total take was only $20 million, not the reported $100 million. While police and the authors of Flawless Scott Andrew Selby and Greg Campbell largely debunked this as a self-serving fabrication to minimize his sentence and confuse the recovery of assets, it adds a layer of noir intrigue to the narrative. The police found no evidence of the replica vault, and the logistical complexity of coordinating hundreds of independent diamond dealers to agree on an insurance fraud scheme makes the theory highly improbable. Furthermore, many of the stolen goods were uninsured, a common practice in the diamond trade to avoid high premiums and maintain secrecy. Regardless of the origin, the execution required a specific set of skills that Notarbartolo did not possess, leading to the recruitment of the School of Turin, a cast of specialists. He returned to Italy, to the cafes of Turin, to recruit a team known as the School of Turin La Scuola de Torino. This was not a gang in the traditional sense, but a collective of freelance specialists who came together for specific jobs. The team Notarbartolo assembled was a perfect analog mechanism in a digital world. Each member was a master of a dying trade, possessing skills that bridged the gap between brute force and electrical engineering. First was the genius, Elio Denorio, an electronics expert and alarm specialist. Denorio was the team's technical wizard. His role was to defeat the sensors. He was not a hacker. He was a hardware manipulator who understood the physical properties of circuits and waves. He studied the schematics of the specific sensors identified in Notarbartolo's photos, determining their blind spots and sensitivities. His presence on the team was confirmed later by forensic evidence, including a business card found in the trash. Next was the monster, Ferdinando Finotto, described as tall, muscular, and terrifyingly competent. Finotto was a mechanic, a lockpicker, and the team's muscle. His nickname, the Monster, referred to his physical presence and his ability to handle heavy machinery and intricate wiring with equal proficiency. He was responsible for the physical bypassing of the systems and the grueling labor of breaking open the boxes. Then there was the King of Keys, an unidentified older man, widely considered one of the greatest key forgers in the world. His identity remains the heist's greatest enduring mystery. He could look at a key and replicate it by file and feel. His role was critical, to bypass the foot-long physical key that secured the vault door. He remains the only member of the team never caught by police. Finally, there was Speedy, Pietro Tavano, a childhood friend of Notarbartolo. Anxious, paranoid, and prone to panic, he was the logistics man and the driver, while loyal, his psychological fragility. His inability to handle the immense pressure of the post-heist escape would prove to be the team's Achilles heel. The plan utilized analog hacks for digital locks. The team spent months in preparation. Notarbartolo's surveillance footage was dissected frame by frame. Denorio analyzed the datasheets of the specific sensor models visible in the photos. They realized that the vault's security, while technologically advanced, relied on physics. And physics could be cheated using household items and basic scientific principles. To address the heat and motion problem, they knew the vault was swept by infrared and Doppler sensors. Denorio deduced that the infrared sensors detected rapid changes in heat. If a body was shielded by a material with low thermal conductivity, the sensor might be blinded. For the magnetic field, the door alarm relied on two magnets maintaining a connection. If the magnets could be unscrewed without breaking the field, the door could be opened without the alarm registering a break. The key was the hardest part. The foot-long key was unique. However, Notarbartolo's surveillance revealed a stunning lapse in security protocol. The guards often left the key in a utility room or antechamber near the vault, rather than carrying it with them, a complacency born of routine. They chose the weekend of February 15 to 16, 2003, a major tennis match. The Diamond Games, featuring Venus Williams, was scheduled for that weekend, creating a distraction for the city's populace and police. The Diamond Centre would be deserted. February 15, 2003, Saturday night. The city of Antwerp was dark and cold as the investigation's pivot point began with the infiltration via the garden terrace. The School of Turin began their approach. They did not enter through the front door. Using a ladder, they accessed a private garden terrace that abutted the rear of the Diamond Centre. This terrace was the building's only blind spot, though it was still monitored by an external infrared heat detector. Here, the genius performed his first trick. He approached the sensor slowly, holding a large, homemade shield made of polyester. Polyester has extremely low thermal conductivity. It effectively blocked his body heat from the sensor. By moving incrementally, he prevented the motion detector, which looks for rapid delta changes in the heat signature, from triggering. He reached the sensor and placed the shield directly in front of it, blinding it permanently. With the sensor neutralized, he disabled the alarm on a balcony window, and the team slipped into the building. They were inside the perimeter. During the descent into the antechamber, they descended the stairwell to the vault level -2. They wore gloves to avoid fingerprints and plastic coverings on their shoes to prevent leaving trace evidence. In the antechamber, security cameras watched the vault door. The team covered the camera lenses with black plastic bags. To ensure the light-sensitive cameras didn't register the sudden darkness as a malfunction or obstruction, they turned on the lights in the antechamber, flooding the room with artificial brightness before bagging the lenses, or perhaps bagging them in the dark to simulate a power outage. The exact sequence remains debated, but the result was effective. The eyes of the building were blindfolded. They reached the pivot point at the vault door. Now they faced the main event, the 3-ton door. This moment required the synchronization of months of planning. First was the combination or the electronic eye. Notarbartolo had allegedly captured the combination code using a hidden camera. In some accounts, he claimed to have installed a miniature camera above the vault door months earlier, broadcasting the guards' hand movements to a receiver hidden in a fire extinguisher nearby. While security experts have debated the feasibility of this fire extinguisher theory, citing the need for a Faraday cage effect in the antechamber, the team undeniably had the code. Whether through the camera or simple observation of guard complacency, they dialed the numbers. Next came the magnetic field and the aluminum plate. This was the masterpiece of the operation. The magnetic sensor consisted of 2 plates, one on the door, one on the frame. If separated, the alarm tripped. The genius produced a custom-made aluminum bracket. He attached high-strength double-sided tape to the bracket. He placed the bracket over the two magnetic plates, taping them together before the door was opened. He then unscrewed the bolts holding the magnets to the door and frame. When the door swung open, the magnets remained stuck to the aluminum bracket, still facing each other, maintaining the magnetic field. The alarm system thought the door was still closed. Finally, the key and the human failure came into play. The King of Keys went to work. Whether he used a duplicate key forged from video analysis or simply retrieved the original key from the utility room where the guards negligently stored it, the lock turned. The bolts retracted. The massive door swung open. Once inside the belly of the beast, the team entered the vault. It was pitch black. Regarding the light sensor, the moment light hit the sensor inside, the alarm would sound. The team knew exactly where the sensor was. Working in the dark, or perhaps using low-light vision, one member immediately located the light sensor and taped it over using heavy duct tape. For the motion and heat detectors, utilizing the Hairspray hack, the internal motion sensors were volumetric Doppler/microwave and infrared. The team used styrofoam boxes. They placed these boxes over the sensors. Styrofoam is distinct from polyester. It scatters radar waves and insulates heat. By encasing the sensors, they created a null zone where the sensors believed the room was empty and static. Crucially, one snippet suggests they used hairspray. By spraying the lens of the infrared detector with a transparent film, likely silicone-based hairspray, they created a barrier that diffused the thermal signature, insulating the sensor momentarily and preventing it from registering the heat of their bodies. This low-tech hack, using a $2 can of beauty product to defeat $1 million system, became the Heist's defining legend. During the looting and the physical toll, with the sensors blinded, the King of Keys and the monster went to work on the deposit boxes. They didn't pick the locks gently. They used a custom-made hand-cranked drill to torque the locks until they snapped. They worked for hours. They opened 109 boxes. They emptied diamonds, gold bars, and cash into duffel bags. The sheer volume of wealth was overwhelming. They found so much that they had to be selective, leaving behind silver and lesser valuables because they couldn't carry the weight. At approximately 5:30 a.m., they stopped. They cleaned up their tools mostly. They grabbed the security tapes from the VCR recorder in the adjacent room. Notarbartolo knew where the tapes were kept. They left the vault. They closed the door or left it ajar. Accounts vary, but the magnetic override meant the alarm never sounded. They exited the building the way they came, slipping into the pre-dawn darkness of Antwerp. They had committed the perfect crime. The investigation turned on the salami sandwich and the fall. The error on the E19 highway happened less than 24 hours later. The team split up. Notarbartolo stayed in Antwerp to maintain his cover. The others, led by Speedy and the monster, drove toward Italy. They were carrying the diamonds and, crucially, the garbage bags containing the evidence of the heist. The empty spray cans, the styrofoam, the plastic bags, and their food wrappers. The plan was to burn the garbage in France, but Speedy Pietro Tavano was unraveling. As they drove down the E19 highway near a forest in Vilvoorde, Belgium, he suffered a severe panic attack. He was convinced the police were closing in. He insisted they dump the evidence immediately. Overruling the plan, they pulled over into a wooded area on private property and threw the garbage bags into the undergrowth. They assumed the trash would never be found, or if found, never linked to them. It was a fatal miscalculation. Monday morning. The land belonged to August Van Camp, a retired grocer with a penchant for order and a deep hatred of litter. On this morning, he found the trash. Furious, he called the police. Not the Diamond Squad, but the local police, to complain about illegal dumping. When the police arrived, they found more than just candy wrappers. They found envelopes from the Antwerp Diamond Centre. They found a receipt for a video surveillance system. They found stripped wire, empty hairspray cans, and the styrofoam blocks used to blind the sensors. And they found a half-eaten salami sandwich. The local police contacted the Antwerp Diamond Squad. The connection was made instantly. The garbage was not random litter. It was the autopsy of the heist. The forensic trail began with the receipt. The receipt for the video surveillance system led police to a specific electronics store. Although the buyer had paid cash, the store had CCTV. Police pulled the tape and saw a tall, muscular man purchasing the equipment. They identified him as Ferdinando Finotto the Monster. Next was the sandwich. The salami sandwich was bagged and sent to the lab. DNA extraction provided a profile. It matched Leonardo Notarbartolo. The DNA evidence was the smoking gun that placed the mastermind at the scene of the disposal, if not the heist itself. Finally, the ID card in the trash, or perhaps via the trail of a business card, found among the debris, police linked Elio Donorio, the genius, to the group. The trap and the arrest were set. Police now knew who Notarbartolo was. But he was a legitimate tenant of the Diamond Centre. If he fled, he would look guilty. If he stayed, he risked arrest. Notarbartolo, believing the heist was still a mystery and the garbage undiscovered, returned to the Diamond Centre on Friday to check his mail and maintain his cover. It was a bold bluff. The Diamond Squad was waiting. They arrested him at the door. The aftermath saw police raids in Italy and Belgium that rounded up Finotto, Donorio, and Tavano. They recovered some evidence from their apartments. Wads of cash, diamonds hidden in carpets. But the vast majority of the $100 million haul was gone. Regarding the sentences, Leonardo Notarbartolo was sentenced to 10 years served about 4 to 6 years. Ferdinando Finotto was sentenced to 5 years. Elio Donorio was sentenced to 5 years. Pietro Tavano was sentenced to 5 years. The King of Keys was never identified and never caught. In conclusion, the Antwerp diamond heist remains a singularity in the history of crime. It was a collision of two worlds, the hyper-secure, high-tech fortress of the modern diamond trade and the analog, tactile ingenuity of the School of Turin. It proved that no matter how many millions of dollars are spent on magnetic sensors and Doppler radar, a system is only as secure as the human element. The guard who leaves a key on a hook, the panic of a driver on a highway, and the DNA left on a sandwich. The vault was designed to keep people out. But Notarbartolo didn't break in. He was invited in, month by month, coffee by coffee, until the fortress simply forgot he was a thief. And when the door finally opened on that February night, it wasn't opened by a supercomputer, but by a piece of bent aluminum and a can of hairspray. The diamonds remain missing. The King of Keys remains a ghost. And the Diamond Centre, now refortified, stands as a monument to the weekend when a group of Italian mechanics stole the world.